You can go, Dan.
Thank you, Ryan. Good evening, everyone. We're hoping will be one of our hybrid meetings next month. We'll probably still have a little bit of Zoom, and we will most likely be at the clubhouse. So just to give you guys a heads up, invite whomever you would like. It'll be a very interesting meeting, I'm sure. But usually we start off, welcome to the DeForest meeting. We start off with the flag salute. And Ryan, if you would do the honors, please. Okay. How are we doing, Ryan? Okay.
Oh, you couldn't hear it?
No.
All right, let me
Nope.
start it over. Sorry.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United States
of America
and to the republic
for which it stands,
one nation,
under God,
indivisible,
with liberty
and justice
for all.
Okay, thank you, Ryan. And moving right along. I don't see anybody from the North Station. But they will be here next month. And I don't see anybody from the 9th District or the 8th District, for that matter. So just to give you a couple of heads up, we do have an event coming up on the 26th that will be at, it'll be at the Long Beach Dairy and Creamery. It's for educational purposes. It's to meet some congressional candidates, as well as the city attorney candidates, as well as the city prosecutor candidates, and a few others. I understand that a few of the other candidates that are running for other office citywide will be there. The auditor, as well as for Congress, we'll have Christina Garcia. The mayor, I'm sure, is quite busy that day. I've already seen 3 of his events. One of them overlaps ours. So anyway, that's going to be going on. And I don't see anybody else. Georgia, can you give us an update on how we're doing with the building and the clubhouse?
Yeah, I'll put my video in for that minute. I'm not in my usual place in my house, and it's a little bit rocky where I'm sitting. Anyway, where we are is that we are waiting, kind of have been waiting through the winter on the Conservation Corps, because there were times where electricity and utilities had to be shut off to our building because we share them. And so that's made the last few months kind of complicated. But as we go forward, it appears that we're kind of moving in the right direction because of a number of the delays that have taken place. Obviously, 1, because of COVID, and 2, just because then the city was so had to be so shut down. We are the project that we're planning for the clubhouse and for the north end of the park is a little bit delayed. And, but it looks like we're in the process, pretty close to securing the funding that we needed to what they call close the gap. So we're very excited about that. So that's kind of exciting. And then in the meantime, we're kind of staffing up for summer. We'll be running day camp in the summer, and we'll be opening for registration just around spring break for that. So that's coming up as well. So that's exciting. And for some reason or other, we got our wires crossed about tonight's meeting. And so one of our staff was going to be on the meeting with me, but both of us actually thought we got confused. In between us, we convinced each other it had been canceled. So she will be back next month. So that'll be nice. Stephanie Blazer is our site director. So so that's pretty much what we're up to. And Dan, if there's any other questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Okay, do we have any questions for Georgia? Okay,
Thank you.
I don't see anyone still from the 9th district or the
Dan,
8th district.
Dan,
I'm sorry?
I did get an update from Assemblymember Gibson's office that
Okay, go.
they did a study on the 91-710 entrance, the north and the west entrances from Atlantic. And they're going to be they've started a work order as a result. They are going to be adding signs about meters, telling people to watch for traffic. But I did tell them this plan does not show meter lights for either the 91 or 710. And they need their independent meters because they may not be on at the same time. Maybe 91 westbound and maybe 710 north. They're not always on at the same time, but there's a couple times I've gone and you have to slam on your brakes because there's a red meter.
Right.
And there's no advance warning because you cannot see them from the entrance as you enter into the freeways.
Okay. And Brian took that in under advisement, I'm sure.
I was the one who said something to Brian, and he followed up, but several people have asked for this. So they've actually done the study. This is now a work order to have these things installed.
Oh, great, great.
So
this
the
would probably be a
signs,
very good. This would be a good time probably for a cleanup coming up maybe next month. Okay. See who we have here. Okay, any other questions? I don't see anybody from the North Station either. So we'll move right along to our speaker for the evening. This is going to be a short meeting if it keeps going like this. Linda Tatum is going to be our speaker discussing the budget tonight. Thanks again for coming back. This is more of it'll be a little different than last time. It'll be this is kind of going to be an ongoing deal. We're going to start maybe getting it a couple of times a year, and maybe we can have Linda, like we had Mr. Gross, where he was coming twice a year, talking about when the budget was being created and then how it's being worked on and enacted. So this is a good start for us this year. So Linda, we're all ready for you. I see you're up and ready to roll. Let's go for it.
Great. Good evening, everyone. I'm very happy to be here to share kind of where we are with the budget going forward. And just so you're aware, what I'm going to be providing for you is something of a condensed version of a presentation that was made to the City Council earlier this month. And it truly is kind of a high-level picture of the city's current fiscal condition and its kind of outlook as we go into the budget process. So I'll give you a high-level overview of where we are and some of the priorities as we move forward. So with that, we'll jump right in. And let me just, there we go. So essentially what you see here is that the data that we have so far is showing that the city is in a strong revenue and recovery position, meaning that generally, the revenues from taxes and other income sources or revenue sources are stronger than we initially anticipated. And we're just looking pretty strong going forward. And what that generally means for right now is that right now, we don't see any service cuts or any targeted cuts to the department as a part of this year's budget. And I'll talk about that in a little bit more detail. But while the news is positive, it's not time to celebrate and just start to go go crazy. I think it's really critical and important that the city continue to be fiscally prudent and disciplined as we move forward. And again, I'll talk about that a little bit more. In terms of where we're going with this current budget year, I've noted that there are no cuts. However, one of the key focuses that we've heard really clearly from the council is the need to focus on our infrastructure. With limited funding in previous years, this budget really will focus on developing and really investing in the city's infrastructure in a way that we haven't been doing before. And we know that obviously Measure A is a large part of that. But in addition, I think you're very well aware that there are a number of federal funding sources that the city is hoping to get through a competitive process. That's through the Federal Infrastructure Fund. And lastly, I just want to talk about, again, just we are in a strong fiscal position right now, but continuing to be fiscally prudent, we think will put the city in good stead as we move forward to manage so that we can continue to be able to maintain budgets and hopefully continue to maintain levels of service, if not over the years, enhance the current levels of service. So I'm going to talk here a little bit about some of the things that, in spite of having a tight budget year last year, some of the things that the city was able to accomplish. I think you're very well aware that Long Beach was a leader in the COVID response. Having our own health department, it enabled us to get out quickly, to be a county and a regional leader in getting our vaccinations out. The numbers tell the story. We have vaccinated over 330,000 residents. And I want to say that I want to say that the numbers in terms of our total population vaccinated probably exceed those of many other cities in the county. We had and continue to maintain a fairly robust COVID testing program. Over 800,000 people have been tested at city sites and over 1 million tests total within the city of Long Beach. We also implemented a COVID-19 booster program to supplement the vaccinations, and we administered over 16,000 booster shots. I think you're also aware that last year the city got federal funding for coronavirus support. And that program was very instrumental in allowing the city. That amount was about 40 million, 20 million of which went into direct programs, community programs. And that covered everything from basic needs for seniors. We were able to do childhood support, health support, youth development, food access. We were able to provide direct grants to nonprofits and local businesses and renters. We also, a more targeted approach for businesses. We launched the BizCare hotline. We went out into the community doing BizCare pop-ups and outreach very specifically to try to assist small businesses to help them survive and recover during a really tough time. We also implemented the emergency rental assistance program that again was using federal funds. We were able to assist over 4,000 tenants and landlords with past due rent and utility payments. We also did the Open Streets program. I think you've seen that in many of the communities around the city, the Open Streets initiative, where we were able to provide temporary parklets for those businesses that had to close and couldn't conduct indoor operations. And that was really critical as another way to just support businesses to allow them to survive during COVID. We also, earlier last year, we adopted the Long Beach Recovery Act. And I think you're probably, you've heard of that, but that again was federal funds. It's over $250 million that clearly support the city being able to come out of its previously anticipated deficit situation, but also provided a lot of support directly to the business community and also to residents in a number of really innovative programs. And of course, we were able to safely reopen City Hall and other city facilities. I want to talk a little bit about just some of the accomplishments we had this past year in the area of homelessness. That continues to be a major priority for the city. We opened a city-owned permanent shelter for the homeless of 125 beds up in North Long Beach. We also, using state funds, with very little support from the city in the initial year of operation, purchased a 102-room hotel. And this is currently being used for transitional and supportive housing. We also operate the temporary 47-room Days Inn, and that provides transitional and supportive housing along with linkages to services for those experiencing homelessness. And again, what you see here on the slide is the number of other statistics related to some of the city's ongoing work to address the homelessness situation in the city. You see some of the numbers of those that have been served at the multi-service center, as well as the continued outreach efforts, more than 900 outreach contacts. And I'd also like to say something that's not shown on the slide is that the council also they transitioned what used to be called the HEART team that provided direct services to the homeless in emergency situations. That's now been replaced with the REACH team. We have 2 of those teams out, and right now there are ongoing discussions, hopefully potential to expand the number of REACH teams that are out in the field. And lastly, council has directed staff to explore potentially purchasing an additional hotel for additional homeless units. So that gives you a sense of some of the things that we've been focusing on in this past fiscal year. So I'll talk a little bit now about some of the trends and how the city's approaching its budget going forward as we prepare for the 23 budget. You can see here that what this is showing is the various revenue sources that the city relies on to fund its budget. And one of the largest of those is sales and use taxes, and those are up 14%. Our utility users tax are up, and when I say that the taxes are up, it's the revenue that's generated by those. That's up about 17%. Property tax is a very slight increase, and the cannabis, which is one of the cute, the cannabis tax is up another 30%. And unfortunately, just due to the economy and the lack of as much travel, the TOT, that's the transit occupancy tax that's paid by hotels, that's down 8%. That's probably correlated to the fact that people weren't traveling as much, and nor did we have the convention center opening and operating or running at full capacity due to the COVID surge that we experienced. So bottom line, though, if you count all of the various revenue, and these are all projections, these aren't actuals, these are just revenue projections, we anticipate to improve by at least 21 million. So this shows you just kind of the expenditure trends that we're experiencing in the things that are funded in the budget by the general fund. So we'll take a look at these really briefly. General liability costs, and that's essentially insurance costs. Those are essentially flat from last year. So we hope to just remain stable on that front. Salary changes for this fiscal year, we are estimating that it'll be an approximate increase of about $18 million. And that's based on the current agreements and just anticipating that there will be some increase even if there's no contract, there are generally just slight salary increases. However, we are going into salary negotiations with our public safety groups. Let's look at workers' comp. We got a little bit of a bump there in savings. Going into the fiscal year, we have about 1.4 million in savings from workers' comp. And the last one of these is the CalPERS pension costs. Even though we got a $500,000 increase in the cost, this is the lowest increase in a number of years. And we see when we look long-term at the CalPERS, that the pension costs, we see that after many years of increase, those are slowly stabilizing and getting stable. And we anticipate them to be stable over the next few years, but at some point after that, they will start to actually decrease. So that's really good news. So all of these things together give us a basis to start looking at kind of the broad direction that we're going, so that we can start aligning the budget to make sure that we're continuing the service levels to the residents and addressing the critical needs. And you'll see at the bottom there, just our expenses that we project going forward will stay about the same as last year. All right. Let's see a few more slides here. Our previous projection when we were preparing last year's budget was that in this fiscal year, we projected that the deficit would be about close to 36 million. That was a pretty scary place to be. So we're really thankful that number one, we got the federal funding support that we did, which has offset some of that cost, but also that the revenues that are being generated by the city, taxes and other sources, that they came in much higher than we anticipated. So if you look at what we thought the deficit would be when we were preparing last year's budget, that revised budget for the city's deficit is now at 14.9 million. But when you look at the amount of assistance in terms of the increased revenue and the Measure 8 maintenance amount, the shortfall is coming in at about 11.9 million. And again, with those enhanced revenues, that clearly puts us in a much better position than we thought we'd be. And that's the basis on which we can move forward without any targeted budget cuts. So this pretty much summarizes it. We were looking at about $11.9 million shortfall. And with the funding that was provided by the federal Recovery Act funds, we've been able to cover that anticipated shortfall. So again, no general fund reduction targets for city departments. And that's really good news, because generally without cuts in the departments, that generally means that we'll be able to maintain service levels. And in many cases, as I mentioned before, the idea is to try to enhance them wherever possible. So while that's good news, I don't want to make everything seem rosy, only because there are still some areas where we're not completely out of the woods. We know that we're still waiting for the courts to decide the Measure M litigation. And because of that litigation is still pending, we will have to set aside potential funding to pay that off. That's not up to $9 million if the city isn't successful with that. I talked earlier about the negotiations with our bargaining units. That is another, while we've set aside a certain percentage of a budget to cover that, we don't know exactly where that will end up. And then of course, future costs. We know with the global economy and things being like they have been recently with supply shortages, it's really difficult to completely accurately address a future cost. And of course, all of these assumptions assume that the city doesn't fall into recession. So that's, again, pretty much a big picture of where we are with the problem. In this slide, in the middle of it, you can see we're trying to look ahead at what our budget situation looks like. And what I want to acknowledge is that while we're solving the current fiscal, the shortage, the budget shortfall this year, it doesn't make it magically go away. If we address the shortfall this year with one time without significant additional structural increases in revenue, it essentially means that we're just adding to the shortfall next year. So I just want to make sure you're clear on that. So we're safer this year. And what we're hoping for is just, again, continued fiscal prudence, but again, providing basic and to the extent that we can enhance services. We just want to maintain a steady course. And of course, we're also hoping to we're very aggressively looking for additional federal funds. I mentioned about, we know that we'll be getting some infrastructure funding, but much of the infrastructure bill that you heard about at the federal level, much of that is competitive. So it's not like we are guaranteed to get a certain amount of dollars like we did when we got the Recovery Act fund. So just again, trying to paint a really complete picture of the city's budget situation. So I'll talk a little bit about Measure A and other funds. I think we can close out. Essentially, in this current year, we have about $20 to $22 million of Measure A fund available. And this is based upon the current projections. This is what we think. Again, these aren't actual, but they're structural. And I mentioned to you earlier that going forward, one of our focuses this year is to try to invest as much as we can in infrastructure. And half of that will be in infrastructure, and ideally we'd be able to balance that with operations. So the idea is to look at cost increases and budget issues and try to maintain our public safety services. Of course, that includes everything from, that includes we had a fire department reduction target last year that we ended up not taking on fire department because of that, because they did not identify that. So we have to go in and backfill that amount. We also anticipate Engine 17 that we again applied for federal, it's called a SAFER grant, and that would give us about $5.2 million. And we're crossing our fingers that we get that grant. And we've also, we intend to continue to invest in police and neighborhood safe streets. And again, just really briefly, high level, the city is considering, council hasn't made any final determinations yet, but we are looking at potential bond measures, about $50 million every 2 years. And that'll address the annual debt service on that amount of bonding is about $3.5 million a year for the first fiscal year after the bond is issued, another $7 million the following year, and $11.5 million annually beyond. But that would give the city about $150 million in bond funded projects that include everything from roads, streets, repaving projects, sidewalks, including upgrades to a lot of the city facilities. So when we talk about infrastructure, it's more than streets and waters and, I'm sorry, streets and roads, but it also includes a lot of the deferred maintenance in city facilities. So that's kind of high level what we're looking at trying to get addressed in this current budget. Want to talk briefly about other funds. I know we tend to focus on the general fund, but there are other funds, and we're just hoping to be able to use those other funds where we can in trying to keep the cost down. We have the Special Advertising and Promotions Fund, and that the main source of funding here is the TOT tax that's generated by hotels. And we think that this will rebound, but it's probably slower than we like. I think you saw from the earlier slide that we actually saw about we saw an 8% reduction from last year, as opposed to some of the other funds, which were rebounding and a lot healthier. So we will probably need to draw down $5 million in those funds in fiscal year 22 in order to avoid reductions in the fiscal year. So we're just looking at those and we're just being careful as we go forward with those. And we're continuing to hope for one-time funds. And I mentioned to you there, those one-time funds being a number of different potential federal grants and other sources to support our budget. The refuse fund, we are currently in the process of doing a cost study. We anticipate that given that there haven't been increases in that for a number of years, we're just looking at how to make sure that the rates that are being charged for the refuse cover the actual costs, including, I don't know if you're aware, but the state mandated that cities now address organic waste collection, and that the numbers in the organic waste be reduced to meet state mandates. So the city has asked the state for a 1-year deferral in the implementation of that program, just to give us a little bit more time to develop a meaningful plan about how we will address that. So again, the refuse study will address the implementation of that state requirement. All right, I'll talk a little bit about just the community engagement. As we move forward into the budget year, the council directed staff to be really thoughtful in trying to get the community engaged in the budget process fairly early on, meaning before they actually started developing, to be clear about what some of the community's needs and interests and areas of budget concern were. So this just gives you a high level overview of some of those efforts by the city. We had 3 community meetings, and they were each, this year, we did 2 virtual meetings at the very beginning of the process in January. In addition, we did a budget survey, and that survey was open to the public, and I think it just closed at the end of last month. We also prioritized language access to make sure that we were reaching out to all of the different multiple languages that are spoken in the community, as well as interpretation services. And we actually tracked all of the meeting attendees and participation with some very significant demographic data. And of course, we were looking at all of the participation through an equity lens, so that the city council had a sense of who was participating in the process. So what I'm showing you here is one of the data pieces that were collected. And this just shows you very roughly the number of people that attended those meetings. And it's broken down by council district. And it's also broken down. This is for the survey responses that we got. If you see the big blue sign here at the top, that reflects the number of people that actually attended the virtual meetings, and the rest of the data here shows you the ones that we got responses from the survey. So this shows it to you by council district and by age. So we felt that it was a pretty robust response. Could have been better, but we'll take all the input we can get. And again, this was early feedback on the budget, meaning that it was actually before the budget process actually gets started. It was council thought, and we agreed that it was pretty important to find out what the residents' priorities and what the areas of concern were before we start developing the budget. And this doesn't mean that that's the end of the process, because of course, there will be additional opportunities as the budget process gets going. So this is just a summary of some of what we heard from the community. Probably no surprises here. Homelessness, traffic and parking issues, library funding, roads and infrastructure, combating crime, funding parks, diverting police funds to other services. So we had a really broad broad range of services or concerns that were expressed. And let's see. This, let me make sure I'm clearly articulating the difference here. This list was provided by those that attended the virtual meeting. The second list are the themes that we heard from those that responded to the survey. But you can see that many of the themes are very similar. Combating crime, concern about public safety, homelessness, infrastructure, affordable housing, investment in parks, mental health and addiction issues, and of course, fostering a more business-friendly environment in the city. So that pretty much wraps up what we presented to council. We're very hopeful as we're going into the budget preparation process. We feel that the city's finances are strong, but it will absolutely require us continuing to be, I don't want to use the term conservative, but I really do want to say being fiscally prudent and making sure that we pursue every potential grant and other funding opportunities from outside of the city that we possibly can, so that we can address the priorities that you saw reflected in the residents' concerns, as well as our focus on infrastructure and addressing many of the issues that around homelessness and all of the other services that the city provides. So with that, that concludes my presentation, and happy to answer any questions you might have.
So do we have any questions for Linda?
Wow.
After
Linda,
all
Maybe
that,
maybe I gave too much information. I don't know.
well, no, this is Carl. Can you hear me?
Okay,
Yes,
Carl.
I can hear
Yeah,
you
go ahead.
fine.
Yeah, Linda, I was wondering, did you do any demographic breakdown of the responses you got online from people?
I don't know if anything is online, but I can certainly check and I can get back to Dan and he can share it with you, Carl. I'd be happy to do that.
I was just curious as to, the breakdown, like, obviously the 9th district didn't have too many people participate, but they might have participated in giving their opinion online, right?
And that's yes. So let me see what I can find out, and I'd be happy to follow up and get that
Okay.
information to Dan.
All right, thank you very much.
And I will say, let me go back to that. I'm not sure of the breakdown, but there's more detail than what I shared here. I didn't want to make the presentation too long tonight or bore you with the details, but there is some additional demographic information that I think you'd find helpful. But I can certainly check to see what's available online, or what I can share with you, even if it's not online.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions? Okay, there is a question that came up during the week to me, and that was, when the cruise line, which is Carnival, expands out, and they're talking, from what I understand, about 2 to 3 ships, how is that going to affect the TOT? That should increase it, if I'm not mistaken, as far as I know.
It probably, and I'm totally giving you off the cuff responses here, because typically when they come here, if they start here to board the ship, some who go on cruises will come early and spend some time locally. And we love that, because not only do they spend it in restaurants and some of the shops around town, but if they plan their trip around staying here, we get a bump in the TOT on the front end and sometimes on the back end. So yes, there's a bump. I don't know that we capture that or have hard data on that, but we generally anticipate that the number of cruise ships that go out of here, we do base some of the increase in TOT around that amount.
Well, the board, I'm familiar with it. The boarding going out and coming back, usually the 3-day or the 7-day, you do get it. Those boarding fees are besides the port costs, you also have boarding fees built in there for TOT because you do have occupancy. So that was one of the reasons why the cruise line moved here.
Yes.
We were way cheaper at the time they moved here, about $9 per person, and at that time they had two smaller ships over here, and they were bringing in about $3,000 a week, and that was saving them millions of dollars. I was hoping we would get more, but we didn't. So that's just my own personal information.
I will share with you though that at the soonest opportunity, when we have the opportunity to relook at that, I can assure you that we will be looking to be more competitive with surrounding ports.
I'm
Because you're
hoping
right, that
so.
is a potential revenue opportunity for the city.
Okay, do we have any other questions? All right, Linda, thank you so much again. Great job. Wow, pretty simple. So now we're going to go to the the 9th district. Parker, are you ready?
Yep, ready. Sorry about that.
I am going to sign off if that's okay.
Oh, that's fine. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Thank you. That was great.
I'm going to turn it over to Parker. All yours.
Thanks, Linda.
All righty, bye-bye.
All right,
so
Parker, you're on.
Great. Just have a couple of news updates here from the 9th. This Saturday, we are holding a 9th District open house down at Houghton Park in the community center from 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock. Come by if you need help dealing with some sort of city agency. We're going to give some presentations on some of the stuff we've done over the past couple of years and how to get involved, all that kind of stuff. So it'll be a good time, 1 to 3. Houghton Park. If you have any, like I said, you have any problems with any government agency, there'll be a lot of them tabling. You can go talk to them. You can talk to us, get to know the staff. Rex will be there. We'll have food, refreshments, all that. So just want to have a good community get together because we haven't had one in a while. What with COVID, I think we haven't all seen each other since probably the Christmas party. This will be a good opportunity for us to get back together and talk. That following day, I don't know if anybody here has been to La Superbiria at the Uptown Commons yet. They opened up maybe 2 weeks ago at this point. They're having sort of their official grand opening that Sunday. We're going to start around 11. There'll be a raffle, music playing, all that kind of stuff. Come out and support a new business in the 9th. I can tell you it's a really good spot. I was a fan of the place before they moved out here because there was one in Santa Ana that my mother had actually put me onto. She had gone down there a couple times, and just if you can come out that day as well. It's kind of a packed weekend, so no worries. But if you can, just make sure you come out to that too. And I have for one more event here, and then I'm going to get to some other stuff. I've got Tessa here on the call from Rancho Los Cerritos to talk about something that's going on next weekend.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. Thank you, Parker. And thanks, everyone. I really appreciate the opportunity to share this event that we have going on Sunday, March 27th. Rancho Los Cerritos, which is located now in the 5th district, formerly the 8th district, is launching our newest exhibit, Roots in California. It tells the stories of the Mexican and Mexican American workers that lived at the rancho from the 1890s through the 1930s, and it connects to 5 modern stories. We partnered with Cal State Long Beach on this exhibition, and it is funded by the National Endowment for the Humanities. So we've been working on this through COVID, and we are thrilled to open it to the public in person on Sunday, March 27th. We're going to throw a festival type of event with music and food, and we are partnering with Parker's team and the council member's office to offer free transportation through Long Beach Transit. Thank you for that, Parker. Now I don't have to. Parker just dropped the link to the event in the chat. So if anybody would like to link there, you can RSVP. It's free to attend. Everyone is welcome. Please share it with your friends and family. We'd love to see you all there. We're just, the RSVP is just so we can get a head count for food and beverages. If there's any questions about the Rancho or anything else happening, I'd be happy to stay on and answer them. Otherwise, I'll turn it back over to Parker.
Yeah, and to add to that, we're working on sort of a transit option. We don't have all the details hammered out yet, but LB Transit is on board. They're going to have a bus somewhere in the 9th to take folks down to the Rancho, probably starting around 2:30, and doing kind of a half-hour loop. Do you guys have feedback? Does anyone here have feedback on sort of where that would be located? I think we tried to do Uptown Commons, but one, the bus stop there, we don't want to like break up the normal bus route there, and two, that parking lot's a little cramped. I mean, you know, folks here have driven around in there. It's tough already as is. We were thinking the Michelle Obama Library might be the best place to do it, but if anyone in here has any better feedback on that.
No, I think the Obama Library is probably better. I mean, I do know a couple of places, but I think that one's probably the best. It's easiest to access, and it's a straighter shot. So
yeah,
and there's more parking availability adjacent all the way around. So that's a good one.
Okay, good. Yeah, we'll go ahead and move forward with that then. I will make sure everyone in here, and Dan, I'll send it all to you, knows the details once we get it hammered out. So one last, and thank you, Tessa, for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for.
Yeah, does anyone have any
inviting me.
questions for her? Okay, if not, yeah, really appreciate you being here.
Parker, I'll put my email in the chat as well. And so if anyone thinks of anything after the meeting too, please feel free to reach out to me. Happy to answer any questions.
Great. Last event we have going on here in the 9th, the new Ronald R. Arias Health Equity Center is opening up on April 4th, the Monday. I think this is the first group to know this, but 10 a.m. Is the time most likely. Like I said, I will, with the previous event, I will make sure that people get updated if that changes, but 10 a.m. Monday, April 4th is the time that ceremony will be happening. We'll have a little bit of an open house too throughout the day after that happens. So I hope folks can come out to that. We have a lot of really cool stuff to show off there. So that hopefully we can get good attendance on that event. A couple of sort of city side updates, and hi Joni, logging on here. A couple of city side updates that I have. The city just launched its small business relief grants program. In fact, I think it launched yesterday. This is going to be sort of grants between, depending on your type of business, but generally between $2,500 and $25,000 for anything from restaurants, breweries, bars, barbershops, gyms, general small business relief, and nonprofits. You can apply by following that link I sent right down there. You know, if this had launched, you know, a week ago or 2 weeks ago, we might have been able to save some of the Uptown Commons restaurants, but just going forward, this should be a resource for everyone who knows somebody whose business or nonprofit is struggling at this moment. Definitely make sure that you get that out to your networks and let people know. The deadline to apply is May 15th. So May 15th at midnight is the last time you can put in an application. And then the final thing, and I'll take some questions.
I had a question actually.
Yeah.
For the grants for nonprofits, what is the criteria to be eligible? Like, are small nonprofits, like, you know, like a neighborhood association, some of us are nonprofits, would we potentially be eligible for that?
I think you would. Let me double check like on the I'll pull this
I know,
back up here. Let me share my screen actually.
Somewhere that I think it was requiring you to have a business license perhaps. So that's what I was wondering.
Yeah, let me share my screen and we can figure that out. Okay. So if we go into, let's see here. Doesn't look like it says on this. You can always contact our BizCare team, and I'll throw that in the chat here. our BizCare team is the one who's helping with all of the applications. So if anybody needs a walkthrough with anything, they are available 8 to 5 on weekdays. This is their phone number right here. Let me add that too. And they'll be able to answer.
Actually, it says that you either have to have an active business license or a delinquent license. It cannot be terminated or closed out. But yes, you have to have a business license.
Okay. Great. So yeah, I hope that's helpful to folks. Thank you for that.
So that precludes those. So that would preclude groups like ours because we don't have a business license.
Does that, sorry, whoever said that, sorry, I'm screen sharing, so I can't see.
That was
This is Joni. I was just saying we don't have a business license, so that would mean.
Oh, no,
that, for instance,
Darlene, right?
that was Darlene.
Yeah. As far as the nonprofits, do you know if they have to have I guess they have to have a 501c3 in lieu of a business license.
That's
501c3, 501c19. Yeah.
But you still have, it does still say you have to have the business license.
On top of that, okay.
It does not say you do not have to have it.
Right.
If you're a nonprofit. You can be a nonprofit, but you still have to have the business license.
Okay. Yeah, let me see. I'll show folks what the application looks like here. Let's just do for the nonprofit one, for example. That's gonna make me log in. We probably can't go all the way through that. But yeah, like I said, if anybody has any questions about that, feel free to reach out to the BizCare team or also email me when I have better access to some research materials. And I'd be happy to help anybody with that. There's my email in the chat once again. Final thing here, and this is much more DeForest Park related. I don't know if folks have heard about Campfire's new sort of proposal for state funds or federal funds for DeForest Park, but they have been working with any of the various groups working on the Environmental Center, Conservation Corps, folks like that, on a plan to even expand that Environmental Stewardship Center further and help help make DeForest Park as great as we know it can be. There's 3 main portions to it. $2.5 million for a lodge, which would create like a great room, large community space, arts and crafts room, kitchen, staff room, storage, new restrooms. There's $1 million for a new discovery trail. So a walking trail system, more outdoor gathering spaces, and a further extension of the trail system west and south along the lower LA River. And then finally, the addition of a discovery garden, adventure playground, and dry creek. And that would be another $1 million. So we've worked with the city, our government affairs office here at the city, lobbyists, all that, to try to get this into any federal or state bills that are coming out. My best guess is this is probably going to be a state thing. The federal government does not seem to have as much extra money lying around as the state does. So just know about, I guess it's good to know about this, and I will keep everyone in here updated on the status of it whenever I hear something, because I think this could be a real opportunity for DeForest Park.
Okay.
And then as far as questions, if anybody's got anything, any issues with any city agencies, anything they need that from our council office, please feel free to ask those kind of things now, and I'll make sure I write it all down.
Hey, I don't see anybody. Anybody have any questions?
I don't have,
Oh, Georgia's on the call. Georgia.
yeah, I am. Hi, Parker.
Yeah.
Wait,
Hey,
I'm trying to
yeah,
get
Georgia's
myself
been
back.
working with us on this. Yeah.
I wanted to say thanks to Parker. He's been extremely helpful. The whole office has been, but Parker in particular has done some writing for us and helped with a couple of letters. And so we are truly grateful, and we're very excited about the opportunities. Parker, I did talk about it right at the beginning of the meeting, but
Okay.
there
Great.
weren't a lot of people on at that point. So, but anyway, it's been kind of, I know that sounds weird. It's been kind of fun because there's an energy now to all the stuff that we're working on together. So thanks to everybody who's helping us with that. And Parker, thanks to you especially.
Yeah, thank you, Georgia.
Bet.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, seeing no one. At this time of the meeting, we are a 501c3. We do allow 3 minutes for comments for non-agenda items, for things that were not put on the agenda or different things. So if there is anyone that would like to speak, please, let's do it right now. Other than that, I'll be asking for a motion to adjourn. So, anyone?
Point of information, Reese.
Okay, Anthony, go for it.
Hi, yes. First, I just want to thank you for the invitation. This is Anthony Bryson. We had a conversation earlier in the week. We'll be out next Saturday on a trial basis, cleaning. Excited to work with you guys, excited for this opportunity. It was a great opportunity to see the behind the scenes and how you guys function and are so intertwined within the city. I love it. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I wanted to know if anything, you guys would be providing an assistance as resource or at all on next Saturday's event, or if that would come later on in the line.
Let me address that. Once we can sit down at the board meeting and discuss this a little bit further, we can discuss about that. But normally, no, we're not going to be over the top being, it was such short notice, number one. And number two, we've already got a couple of other big events going on during the week and during that day. So you guys are you're going to be on your own doing this the first go around. But as you saw, where we were suggesting the freeways, now you know why we were suggesting the freeway on-ramps and stuff like that, because that's our gateway.
Definitely. And we're really excited for this opportunity, and we'll be there. Long-term is what we're hoping for, to be able to forge a good relationship. And thank you so much. We definitely will have the things needed for the cleanup. I just wanted to ask that question. Thank you so much again for this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you.
I was going to say, Anthony, for anybody who might be interested in joining, what time is the cleanup and where should they meet you?
Okay, so the cleanup will be taking place on the dates we have is the 25th and the 26th. On the 25th, we only have 4 people registered. So the 26th, so we have about 36 people registered, and we will be meeting at the wetlands at DeForest Park. We'll have gloves, trash bags available. We're asking that you come at 10:30 is when it starts. It's going to be 10 to 1:30 is our expected time frame. It's going to be really great. A lot of friendly people who've helped us with beach cleanups and community cleanups already will be coming out. Please wear closed-toed shoes, long pants, and yeah.
All right, thanks,
Okay.
Anthony. And I see that the link for people if they want to sign up is in the chat.
So anyone
And
else?
I'll post that underneath the video on Facebook as well.
Reese.
Okay, great. Thanks, Joni. Anyone else?
Reese wanted to speak.
Okay. Yeah, I don't see anyone.
Oh, Reese, go ahead. Did you want something?
Oh, Reese, go for it. There you go.
Well, we had an interesting situation with Southern Cal Edison on March 3rd. They notified
yeah,
the neighborhood area that they were going to turn off the electricity in the daytime from about 8 until 3. Well, that did not happen. However, in certain areas of the Forest Park, the Edison will be turned off on March 30th from about 8 o'clock in the morning until about 3 p.m. They're replacing transformers. 30.
So Reese, to give you a little heads up, oh yeah, they did replace transformers. It was from 3 a.m. until 8 a.m. I believe it was on the 5th.
Yes.
So it was very interesting to have everything completely be dark over here down the alley, because usually the parkway is well lit, and my dogs went off. That was my early morning alarm, and sure enough, it was pitch black everywhere. So, and then at about 5 o'clock, I had people knocking at my door saying, "Hey, what's going on?" So anyway, it was all taken care of. It was done very nicely, very fast. At least on our end up here. I don't know if it went down as far as Joni's house. It probably did. But other than that, yeah, it came back on, no problems. And I guess we're looking at, like you said, at the end of the month. Okay, anyone else? Okay, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Reese, make a motion to adjourn.
All those in favor? Oh, I guess we'll be here all night.
Aye.
Aye.
Corazon, aye
All
in
right,
the
thank
chat.
you, everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next month, we're going to be back in the clubhouse.
Good.
Joni, go ahead.
I didn't say anything.
Oh, okay. All right. I will see you all next week or next month.
Bye.